The grind has stretched out for months. Workout after workout, hill repeat after hill repeat, mile after seemingly endless mile. But finally, the reward is here. It's championship time. What you've really worked for. League finals, sectionals, state, and maybe Nike Cross Nationals. There's nothing like it. Postseason 2019. The top 2 boys teams in America this year are both from Southern California. The perennial power Great Oak and the new sensation Newbury Park. Surviving California's cross-country postseason. It's the most intense month of the year.
California is interesting. We have league finals, CIF prelims, CIF finals, state championships, and then NXN if you're good enough to go. So that's 5 weeks in a row. How do you handle that? That was always a battle and struggle with me.
Both Newbury Park and Great Oak compete in the CIF-Southern Section, the strongest and deepest state qualifying region in the entire country. Schools are placed in divisions based on their student enrollment numbers. For Great Oak, with 3,200 students, they compete in Division I. Newbury Park, at 2,500 students, competes in Division II. If it all goes to plan, each team will race 5 consecutive weekends in postseason, culminating with their lone head-to-head showdown at Nike Cross Nationals in Portland, Oregon. Newbury Park has not raced nearly as much as Great Oak this season, so having their runners more rested at this stage could make the difference.
I just think the reason behind it is I've seen success in college, I've seen success professionally. I think you need to race less, but you need to have emphasis of being important more on those races you do run at.
For Great Oak, by regular season's end, its varsity B team is so good, it is literally the 4th best team in CIF-Southern Section Division I. This type of depth could be a huge advantage in keeping his top 7 both healthy and rested. But the big question now is, who are his top 7?
You know, it's hard to figure out, is this kid an A-team kid right now or a B-team kid? You're just focused on, your 16 boys and 16 girls that are going through. We keep 16 all the way through, and so, we try to make sure everybody's ready, and when the time comes, they can step out there and compete.
I'm Rich Gonzalez. I've joined forces with hdRunners to take a deeper look into what makes these 2 programs so special. In this episode, we'll cover the 2019 postseason in their journey toward Nike Cross Nationals. We'll focus on their mentality, their strategies, their hardships, and their successes during this high-stakes postseason drive.
.420 is not fast for a high school mile. It's just not fast.
Nico Young, he's a crazy runner, he's a beast.
Seeing them reach these goals and having success they never knew they could have.
You don't want to disappoint the history of Great Oak. There comes an automatic pressure.
Give me 4 years and I promise you a state title.
We want world domination, and we want to win every level at a meet. We want to be good at everything.
In California, the championship season is a 4-week winnowing from the league finals through the section prelims, the section finals, and finally, the state meet. These top-tier coaches have their own recipes to ensure the fitness of their runners goes to plan. For Sean, he's meticulous like a craftsman.
So I'm there. I'm always there because I want to make sure they're doing everything right. I like to educate my kids. I like them to know why we do certain things, and it's just really making sure that they got to get a lot of attention. If it's not from me, it's from my assistant coaches.
Just the way his mind works and what he sees in each individual athlete is amazing to me. And I would have to admit, I don't see everything he does, but just the way he picks up on everything, on how everyone feels and what's going to work for them, I think is amazing.
Newbury Park High School has the coaches and I think some teachers come to meet freshmen that are incoming. And I'd heard about this new coach, and I had some Marine background. I thought, let's go see what this is gonna be about. But I started talking to him and we hit it off. I mean, our coaching philosophies are almost identical.
Sean has a prolific understanding of his runners and takes an intuitive approach to make sure his athletes are up to national class standards.
He does not ask too much. I assure them that he does not ask too much of these kids. He asks what they can give, but he asks it. I mean, it's not, would you like to do this? It's, this is what you need to do.
I'll do something training-wise because I get a feeling or I think this is what we need to do, and then I'll talk to my friends and like, and they'll give me some crazy term and you're doing it because of this, the physiological standpoint of it. I'm like, I have no idea. I just watched him. He looked horrible. We need to change it, and we did this.
Sean's had always these like little tidbits to tell ourselves in our heads as we're running. So one of them was just think in your head, just run. And just don't think about how much it's hurting. Just focus on one foot in front of the other and just keep moving forward.
Kids in the team will tell you, don't expect to do the workout that you're told. I'm not gonna change it 2 seconds before, but I wanna know factors. I wanna know what happened last night, how you're feeling. I could say I have it down to a science with Nico. I know him so well as an athlete that I can tell you on his strides if something's wrong.
I think what's different about Sean is his dedication to the team. He'll say this himself, but I really don't think that there's another coach out there who puts as much time and effort into us that he does. He definitely is 100% committed, and that motivates us to also be 100% committed. So,
Sean's style is focused on individual development. He tailors his program to each runner's peak performance. The byproduct is a vastly improved team. For Doug, with a massive roster of 150 plus runners, such a detailed approach would drive anyone crazy. Instead, he places the emphasis on each runner to hold themselves accountable.
It's not coaching from 1975 where 15 guys came out and you said go run. It is at our level with 150 to 200 kids in a cross-country program. There is a lot of executive things that you've got to do, and so administration is a huge part of it.
I know what it's like to run a program with 300 kids and their families. I was extremely impressed with Coach Souls and his program. It is a well-oiled machine.
I had a college coach come one time and was watching our practice, and I was just standing there talking with him. He said, "Do you need to get over and warm up the kids?" I said, "No, they know what they're doing. They don't need me over there to do it. And if I don't show up to practice will probably go the way it's supposed to go anyway."
It's Souls not leading by example, telling them every step of the way, because that's just too difficult as a coach when you have that big of a squad, 100 plus people. For him, it's to show the schedule and hold accountability.
It's like being an executive running a company. So, you've got to figure out the finance side of it to be able to go do all the things that you want to do. You might be working with a company like Nike or different sponsors. So there's a lot of pieces in there.
Coming into the team, it can be intimidating, and to constantly prove yourself and to compete at a certain level obviously comes with a lot of pressure.
They know what they're trying to accomplish, and now we've pretty much built out, and it's just maintenance stuff, making sure that we make slight adjustments. And you've got to really be able to delegate. This is what I need my parents to do. These are the things my assistants are going to do, and these are the things that I really have to oversee.
I do not and cannot do a lot of the things that he does, just personality-wise.
I had to call Coach Souls one night and ask him, why is he asking me how to make a spreadsheet for the top 16 meeting? And Coach Souls said, I have no idea. Well, he took it upon himself to organize the top 16 meeting, and he was going to make a spreadsheet on who's bringing what.
They're not working to try to impress Coach Souls. They're not working to try to please me. They're doing it because they know what they want to accomplish. And I think that makes all the difference.
Coach Souls has taught them how to think for themselves, building the foundations to grow up and, go out there and be, successful adults. I think by far that's the greatest part of this program.
This point in the season is especially difficult for the athletes and for their families.
It's not the travel. It's not the time you spend picking them up or going anywhere. Actually, that's a pleasure. It's just the stress of keeping them healthy.
Balancing the family time. I mean, the academics, I mean, Jace was doing the International Baccalaureate program, which is very demanding. It's the classes in general that these kids participate in. I mean, if you come to our cross-country banquet, and I'm sure it's the same at many other schools too, these kids are smart kids. The athletic director comes in to give the athletic or academic awards, and over half the team standing up there. And so these kids are working their tails off.
You either execute, or the person, you know, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, or in line, is going to take your place. The kids know that. They don't question it. They buy into his program. It's very impressive.
These kids work so hard, and you're working months, sometimes years up to an event. But you see these kids come in from like a 5-mile run or a 10-mile run, whatever they're on, and limping and sore, and you just know, I know in my heart, the season's over for this kid. You know, they're not going to make it through. I mean, it literally brings tears to my eyes to see some kid come in, and you just know the season's over for this kid, and it's so sad.
The stress levels rise as each athlete tries to balance their class workload with the ever-increasing demands of staying healthy and keeping their coveted varsity spot.
If he has a bad race or bad training, he's stressed out, you're stressed out. It affects the whole family. When Gabe went to the broken foot, he wasn't the only one suffering. It did a lot of damage to the family, because we see how hard he works and how much he wanted, and to see him not being able to even be on the course, it was painful. So that to me was the suffering, the ups and downs, the competition, because in this program you got to compete every day. You don't do good in practice, or you don't do good time in a race, somebody's taking your spot. Right. So that's the most stressful part for me and for my wife. Mm-hmm.
The gun goes off for the CIF-Southern Section Division II Championship. Newbury Park comes out blazing, and like any meet nowadays, Nico is the main attraction, and at this race, he does not disappoint. The postseason is difficult. Each coach's methods of preparation will now come under scrutiny. This postseason will reveal whether Sean's strategy of limited racing and intense training can really pay off.
They do not over-race, and I have to admit, when I first saw that, I didn't fully understand it, certainly didn't appreciate it, because in my era, we raced every weekend.
We have gaps of 4 or 5 weeks, sometimes mid-season, without a single race. I think that's important.
Then in conversation with him and kind of seeing what his plan was, the fact that he targets very specific races and then trains in between, and the training blocks are very well developed, very well formulated. I had to keep meticulous records when I was doing it for a living. He keeps it all in his head. It's quite impressive.
Give us 2 weeks and we'll be almost top. I think you should always be within 2 weeks of one of your best performances. So that's how we treat September, October, November, December, but try to do our best, obviously, at the end, the way we peak and stuff.
Yeah, I think having such few meets that we needed to try really hard at helped us, because it wasn't like every weekend we needed to be at our best. We had time between each meet to mentally prepare and physically prepare for the next really hard effort, and I think that made a huge difference.
Nico breaks the Riverside course record while not going all out. Another race, another record broken by Nico. Newbury Park wins the Division II crown going away.
But we were at CIF-Finals, and I wanted the guys to run a little harder than I thought they did. I turned to my wife as they were coming in, and I think we broke the course record, and I said, that's not a national championship team. That team won't win nationals.
It was an easy victory in a record-breaking run, but it wasn't enough to keep Sean from lamenting his challenge ahead. In the Division I Championship, we see Great Oak's B team take their place on the start line. For Great Oak, Doug has his own set of protocols going into postseason. Buckle down and execute on the big things, the little things, and, well, everything.
you know, from this point on, there's no more messing around. We're dialed in. And we're trying to create that rhythm in our season where we're now doing everything just a little bit more sharp than what we were doing it before, just a little bit better than what we were doing before. The work that we're doing, if it's not done right, we do it again. If it's not done right, we'll do it again. And that the kids know that. We're gonna be perfect during that time to the best of our ability.
For Doug, the first 3 rounds of postseason isn't so much about winning, it's about determining who might move into the top 7 for state and for nationals. With that in mind, these runners really want to impress.
We're very much at work with 3 varsity teams. So if you look at our varsity team, it's got this year's varsity that's focused on winning the meets this year. We got next year's varsity. And then we've got our future varsity, which are the kids that are good freshman kids, maybe good sophomore kids, that are gonna be in charge of the varsity in the next couple of years. I think from the moment you come in, you're being prepped and ready. And when I meet with our freshman kids, the first thing I say is, you're here to win state championships.
The Great Oak team wins Division I in stride. For Doug, it gives him one final look to see who's ready to suit up for nationals.
So I'm always trying to figure out as a coach, how good is the second team? How good are those kids that we may need to come in and fill in the gaps if someone gets hurt, if someone gets sick? And I think we've seen in the last few years, our B team's been as good as any B team ever has been.
Despite these 2 teams competing in strong leagues, the first 2 rounds of postseason pose no real difficulties. For these 2 teams, CIF Finals proves to be just another tempo run. It's on to state. Next up is the highly anticipated California State Meet. As the teams return to Woodward Park, Newbury Park and Great Oak will compete for the championship in their respective divisions. For Great Oak, their mission is to write history, striving to become the first boys team ever to win 6 consecutive state titles.
Newbury Park was on our mind the whole time. Going into the race, we knew we had to be close in time-wise, otherwise we had 0 chance at NXN to compete with them.
Doug has always placed importance on this meet. To that end, he utilizes visualization to make sure his team is mentally primed and ready to perform.
Mondays we do the state visualization, so we'll run our hills, and then when the kids are all wiped out, they'll lay down and we kind of walk through and kind of talk about, you know, what it looks like. You know, more than anything, our ultimate goal is to have them run that course, the state meet course, over and over and over in their head. So we go through all sorts of different things, you know, kids falling down, somebody broke their leg, you got to keep running, don't stop, you know, stay focused, don't panic. So I think just really having them prepared mentally has made a big difference in our program for state.
Well, there's 2 ways to look at a race, I think. There's a way that, like, my wife likes to talk about it, and she likes to visualize and think herself as feeling great in a race. Well, I like my guys to think how crappy and it's gonna feel in the race, because that's a reality. Like, I don't care who you are, if you're Nico Young or you're my 8th runner or my 9th runner, you're gonna get to, you know, 2 1/4 and you're gonna feel like garbage, and you're gonna have to, you know, think back at the workouts you did and you know how to push through it. And that's kind of our visualization. I don't do too much of it. I don't do anything that's, you know, a little different, I guess.
You know, the thing that's been great for me is there's been quite a few times where the kids have run really well at state, and I'll ask them, they'll say, well, that's where I was in my visualization, so I just felt normal there, so I just went with it. So you got to be careful of holding them back, because sometimes they'll really get aggressive in their visualizations, and then when it comes time, they're just ready to do it. Top-notch group of kids, Coach Noble, and all the hard work that he puts in. Very, very proud of him. Amazing other kids in our program that our B team was able to win the Southern Section Finals. So we're very proud of those guys as well. Thank you very much. 6 in a row.
For Sean and Newbury Park, they're going after a 2nd straight state championship.
Our main focus was getting to the state meet and performing really well, because we were running Division II, which has a lot less dense of a field, and so we knew that our back guys would have to run their hearts out at state in order for us to score points in the merger.
Despite his doubts after CIF Finals, Sean sees a much better team at the state meet.
The state meet, that was a national championship team. You know, I knew that then. So they did it when it was more important, but it's just the effort. You know, these kids are, They're giving up a lot of social life for their running. My kids are anyway, and they give up a lot, but at the end of the payday is, you know, if we don't win, you can't be, obviously you're gonna be upset, but that can't be the final factor.
With their biggest meet ahead, Nico is clearly ultra fit, nearly breaking an unfathomable course record despite not even chasing after it.
I knew that day that I wasn't going to go for that because I needed to save for what I thought was going to be the most important race, which would be NXN. So, but I think if I knew that I was that close to the 14:24 course record the day of the state meet, I probably would have gone faster. But I had no idea like what pace I was going.
If I could just say a few words, I promise again it's going to be real fast. It's been awesome that I'm up here for the second time. You know, as these guys coach all year long, they made a commitment in June. This is what they wanted. We had a goal. We wanted every course record we ran, which we've gotten, and they wanted to win the state meet. And we have one more goal left next week, so we're not done yet.
During the course of state meet Saturday, the runners from both teams eagerly compared their own team's race data to see how it compared against the other.
Yeah, I think we definitely paid attention to what Great Oak was doing at the state meet, just to kind of see what kind of shape they're in for the national meet.
It was very, very weird, you know, because we want to win, obviously, but we also want to see what they're going to do. We also want to focus on NXN. Being able to watch Newbury perform as well was very important for us because we could see what we did well on and what they did well on, and then see where we're going to clash together at NXN.
I definitely did a little bit of cross-comparing on finished results going back from Division II to Division I. And I think we were always trying to gauge our performance off of them, which wasn't always possible because of like the differences in like the depth of the races.
Can we run fast enough to beat Newbury Park, and how can we do that? And that's when our coach came up with our strategy, and we was pretty much us against the clock at that point, because we had the confidence that we could handle state and handle our competition in our division, but it was that not having Newbury Park in our race was to make it a little bit harder to pretty much see how we actually held up against them.
Great Oak breaks the record with its 6th consecutive state title, while Newbury Park rides its own high with the 2nd straight state championship. Team morale is high as both squads head on to nationals. At the end of the state meet, the timer combines the results data from all races into a single merged race. From there, a much smaller percentage of just the top teams are then rescored into a smaller race, the Power Merge. The scores from this sample set determine the qualifiers into NXN. To the surprise of no one, the top 2 boys teams are Newbury Park and Great Oak. It's now written in stone. The fated face-off for Newbury Park and Great Oak is set. Now, these teams have to stay focused for Portland.
The kids come first. It's easy to get caught up in, you know, as my team did really well at the state meet and we go to NXN and being one of the top teams in the country, it's about them, not about me or anything like that. And I think that was always the best advice as a high school coach I got, and I'm gonna stick with that because that's what the level I'm coaching at now.
Great Oak and Newbury Park aren't just battling each other. 2-time defending national champion Loudoun Valley of Virginia and rising national power Corner Canyon of Utah are the other 2 title contenders. These 4 teams raise the competition to unprecedented levels.
The competitive fields just keep getting deeper and deeper and deeper, and this year's NXN was as deep as I've ever seen it.
Both teams have just won state titles. Great Oak, with arguably the greatest team in Division I state history, will go up against Newbury Park, the best team in Division II state history. They're now ranked number 1 and 2 in the country. They've split their prior 2 meetings this year. And now, finally, the big decider.
NXN.
NXN. NXN.
NXN.
NXN. NXN.
NXN.
NXN.
NXN. And
We've reached the end of the road. Don't miss our final episode as we chronicle the historic clash between these two superpowers at the 2019 Nike Cross Nationals.